So I mean, the state of baseball right now, like we were talking, it's just been so negative recently with all that we've been seeing on social media. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go anywhere, and you're just seeing negative comments and referring to kind of another dry time of the game of baseball that we had previously with the steroid era. And there's just so much negative talk right now in the game of baseball. But right before the season starts, we've had so many amazing things happen this offseason at such a great level. We've had guys make more money than ever before. Garrett Cole got a contract most ever for a pitcher. That's a positive thing. There's more money in the game. Offseason has been pretty good for signings. But there's also so much negative talk around the game. And we know, especially as Baseball Lifestyle, how that impacts us. I think there's like a lot of social media entertainment factor to like what's going on, right? Like we've seen there's memes, there's players getting involved with comments on just the state of the union of baseball. And we're not referring to any singular point here in baseball. There's a lot that's been going on for a long time. Whether the game is, too slow, too long, the attendance, there's just so much going on in the game of baseball, that conversation. There's only so much fun you can poke at it. There's only so many, likes and shares and comments that are great. But at the end of the day, it's still a negative connotation with baseball. There needs to be a positive conversation. What is going on in the game of baseball that needs to change? Why we all got into this? Why I got into Baseball Lifestyle at 15 years old was because of my love for the game, right? And going back to it, what are the core reasons of that? It's you create relationships with your friends and your buddies that go beyond the baseball field, and they're your boys for life. Right? There's the days in the cages that we're going to remember. There's the bus trips that we're going to remember where Johnny said this and John did that. Like, there's so much in the game of baseball that's more than just what's happening right now, that we all need to remember that, like, on our scale, what can we control? And a lot of that stemming from us as people have somewhat of an influence on the game of baseball. It's having a positive outlook on the game of baseball. It should be all about showing the love for the game and getting people to enjoy baseball again. There's guys in baseball that are donating a ton to charity. There's guys in baseball that are changing the game, both on and off the field. Close friends with Trevor Bauer. What he's changing with media, with his company, Watch Momentum, and bringing an insight into the game of baseball. Guys like Chase Darno bringing in a game of insight to the people in baseball that people want to see, right? So those are all positive things, and learning everybody's story and how they got there, and the ups and the downs, and that's just life in general. That's what baseball is kind of currently going through, is the down, but there's also so many things that are positive, right? You look at the NBA and how they're so involved in culture, and guys, what they're wearing on their feet, what they're dressed in, what they're doing off the field, who they're involved with, what rappers they hang out with. Like, the culture aspect of baseball is lacking, and that stems from everybody. It's everybody's job to bring the culture of baseball up, and that's what we've done at Baseball Lifestyle 101, is bring the culture of baseball relevant to the people that want to see that. Our followers, our community, engage with all the things that make the most sense. All of the times where, like, you could put a simple post up and you could literally put a picture up of something that has no sound, but people hear it in their mind. You could say, like, you know what I'm talking, like, only ball players will understand this, and it brings people back to a time when they enjoyed the game for what they were doing, whether you just started, whether you're in it, or whether you're retired. So the positive outlook of the game just has to get reversed into why we play the game and what baseball gives everybody. There are people in the game that are changing it that we try to align ourselves with, right? There's, we were just involved in an event down at Easton headquarters where there was the brightest minds in baseball, people that are creating positive culture changes in baseball. John Boy, Fuzzy, just to name a few. Steph, there's so many guys that were there that when we come together, it's like, it's memories. It's everyone hanging out, playing ball, playing video games for baseball, home run derbies against each other, hitting, throwing, like just having a catch. Getting back to the simplicity of like what baseball is all about, right? When you think about when baseball in your earliest memory, it's like, I remember the first time I had a catch with my mother or father. Like, you remember that, right? You remember those times. You remember the time that you went out there with your buddy and were playing catch, and you guys were grinding to get to your next, where you want to be. But there's so many people out there that are doing that, right? And I think social media has its ups and downs and has its balances. But for example, I got buddies over at John Boy, like, they're involved in a lot of the conversation this offseason, but what they're doing is not negative for the game. What they're doing is they're trying to bring a different look inside the game of baseball, right? They've broken stories, they've broken like the Aaron Boone thing, and that was like a whole trend for baseball, and that was a positive thing. That was like a culture shock with baseball, right? You mentioned Trevor Bauer, people like Delino DeShields, who is taking some things in baseball and making it all about positive. We're going to an event with him, and we're gonna help give back to the community of baseball, where he's gonna explain to these kids how and why he got to the position that he is, and give knowledge back to those kids so that they want to aspire to be somebody that's done positively for the game. So I think there's so many people that are doing a good job, but unfortunately the media feeds off of negativity. That's what sells stories. So that's what the conversation's around. But we need to flip that as people with influence and put out a good, positive view on the game of baseball. And that's the most important part. We call baseball America's pastime, and it just stems back from forever. And there's so many traditional ways of how baseball is handled with media, with how things are presented, with how the game is played. But like we're saying, there's a new wave, right? There's a new wave with social media, with influencers, accounts, players, media companies. Everything's different now. Everyone has their own voice, and everyone has the opportunity to change the culture of the game. So I think there's a whole new wave of baseball that needs to, instead of being kind of pushed down, needs to be appreciated and needs to be spread, because it's really spreading the positivity of the game. We're all pumping up the game of baseball, because the bigger the game of baseball grows, we're all successful, right? If baseball is down and baseball isn't successful and people aren't watching or kids aren't playing it because it's not cool or there's just not a positive outlook on it, it affects everybody in the game. So the most important thing is getting together and putting positive voice out with everybody. And that just doesn't take one person, it doesn't take two people, it takes a combined community effort for every single person to change the game where it needs to be. Because, like I said, if you look at other sports, and the NBA and the NFL, and what the NFL went through recently, right? There was a lot of negative talk with the NFL, but fast forward now, and the NFL is in a really good spot. The teams are in a good spot, the players are in a good spot. It just takes time and a concertable effort from everybody to help take the negative and turn it into a positive. And I think, again, the big part of it doesn't just stem from the people with influence, it stems with the community of baseball, right? So what I would ask for the community too that is involved with us, or anybody involved in the game of baseball, right? If any fan, any person, anybody with a social media account, is how could we come together to change, right? What do you guys want to see that's different, right? How could we change the culture of the game? Because it doesn't just start with one person. It's not just one person that's going to change. It's everybody together, and the community is everyone that loves the game of baseball. How do you want to change the game?